First, thanks a lot to the ICT and especially to Rosie, because she's my personal contact. And I'm standing here not because I'm so important, but standing here because I'm here quite a lot. And I'm kind of giving regularly lectures on the subject of possible intersection between art, activism, and society. And today we have the chance to not only to talk about artistic and cultural activism, cultural diplomacy, but also introduce live currently taking place in Berlin, an exchange program between actually 4 partner organizations. There is Willy Brandt Center in Jerusalem, represented by Torgel Kübler from Jerusalem. Heartbeat, Jerusalem, Haifa, and all over the Galil. Jewish Arabic music program. Beside the participants and the young musicians, they're here, Ami and Tamer. Will be also later on stage and answer some questions. It's Islam. I call them, I don't know if you would like it, young German Muslim voice. It's a group of poetry slammers, all with kind of Muslim background, living and growing up in Germany and bringing through poetry their cause on stage. And it's my new organization. I lived the last 15 years in Israel, was a political activist, and now since 1 year I'm back in Germany, in Berlin, and I founded a new organization for transcultural activities called, in German, Drei Wünsche frei. In English is 3 wishes for free. People ask a lot what it is. I mean, it's taken from the fairy tales, but every one of us has 3 wishes free, and if they ask me, I want freedom, equality, and justice. That's the background of this name, but everybody can put their own 3 wishes. About the evening, I would give a short glimpse, short insight in a actually quite long lecture I'm usually doing here on the topic. Then we would have panel discussion of all the teamers involved in the project. And then in the end, and I think the highlight and the headliners is joint poetry reading and music by Heartbeat and Iceland live on stage. And I think we try to make the talking within 1 hour, so we have enough time for music and for enjoying ourselves within the cultural diplomacy. Possible intersection between art, activism, and society. Within this title, we find a lot of implications we are dealing with as artists and as activists. What is the task of an artist, and what is the task of society? I guess there's no general answer to it, and we are not here to tell you what to do and how you should look at art. But I want to share with you some of experiences, thoughts, and actions. Sometimes it is not even a choice, but a result of circumstances and personal preferences that make you a social art artist. I always felt personally that I have both needs equally strong. The artistic need to create and to produce images as a way to deal with circumstances of my life. This is why I studied art. But at the same time, I always felt a strong need to be involved in social struggle as an activist and take part in political and social actions in the field. So I never was quiet at home in an atelier, or I always had a need to go out. Whenever there was demonstration or other actions, I was not quiet, I had to be there. I wanted to be there. So, I think mentality. So for me, it was a natural process that even in my artwork, I address social issues and try to bring the debate from the street to the specialized art audience in order to create awareness among those who are usually more privileged. I mean, in our society, art is very privileged, and a lot of people cannot participate in the artistic, cultural life. Not because it's forbidden, but you have so many social barriers that art, which is mainly out to middle class and educated people, and a lot of people are excluded. But I also understood the power of making art by myself, and I wanted to bring it to others outside the art market. Through different forms of collective art practice, I think we can encourage people to take part in the social debate, to find a personal vision, and finally to play an active role in shaping first their own community and then later society. So I think if we talk about possible intersection between art, activism and society, we talk about people, we talk about places, and we talk about politics. Where are we and why are we doing what we are doing and for whom? As an artist and a filmmaker, I took part in a lot of film festivals and exhibitions. Once a critic wrote, the passionate that, or through my video work, he saw that through passionate politics can present it through poetic means, which would be impossible through the ordinary language of documentary films. And if a lot of people ask why I'm at all still, because I'm very critical about art, I'm all the time complaining about the art market, and they're asking why I'm still believing in art, and I think it's just for this. There is more than the art market within art. And there's sometimes through art it can be more personal and reach further out than through pure documentary films. Even though I love documentary films. But, I'm working now in Berlin, but I've been living the last 15 years in Israel. And so, yeah, at least almost a half of my political active life I spent in Israel. And of course, daily life was influenced by the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And as we all know, this conflict is very complicated. It is violent, and it's surrounded by unforgiving debates from all sides, not only in the Middle East, but all over the world. Everybody all over the world has to say something about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and everybody knows who is wrong and who is right, and always is someone else. Presidents and politicians from all political camps, left or right, could not bring an end to it, to the conflict. So the question, can we solve through art the conflict? And my answer is no, we can't. Another question, can we change something? And there would be my answer probably, yes, we can change something. This might be naive, but I think we can prove it, not so much in talking, but through our actions. And one example we'll see later. It's not necessarily the statements we make, but the energy we transmit. I think there are different forms of cultural activism. One of them is purely in the field of cultural and video activism. This means, as an artist, to produce films, not for the art industry, not for the documentary film industry, but for the purpose to support communal struggle and activism. Those films are usually made with low budget and with independent sponsoring. So they would never find a way to the big festivals that all want TV productions behind them. Actually, the big productions want to sell. So I see also video activism, cultural activism, protest music as a form of protest against the commercialization of documentary films and art and exploitive attitude towards the suffering of the other. Would like to show an example now. It's a short sequence from activist documentary film I made. It's called Basket Kids. It's a documentary about children working on Jerusalem's Mechane Yehuda market. This market is the biggest outdoor market in Israel, and for its typical Middle Eastern atmosphere is mentioned in almost each tourist travel guide. During the Second Intifada, it became also known as the most dangerous spot in Israel. No other place has been targeted more often by suicide bombings. Dozens of young children from Palestinian neighborhoods of Jerusalem are working there instead of attending school. The children are exploited as cheap labor power. Those who do not find jobs at the market booths are offering their help to the many customers and carry for a few shekels shopping bags and baskets to the parking lot. One man only, Mr. Uri Ahmedi from the markets management, felt responsible for those children, first of all for humanitarian motives. And against all opposition of Jews and of Arabs, he initiated a project called Basket Kids. And in the bomb shelter of the community center, in Israel we have bomb shelters on every 500 meters. Somehow there is a bomb shelter by awaiting the next attack. And usually there are used, there are a lot of artist shelters. Artists use them as their ateliers, or they use them really for communal activities. And by chance on this market there was a free bomb shelter, and he established a school there for those children that work in the market, and he wanted to give them a little bit childhood back. And I think I will show you a short on. Just a few things to say what's the activism, because before starting filming I didn't go just with the camera and started filming. I spent one summer with those kiddies, was working with them with other activities in the shelter until I knew them. I visited the parents as far as was possible. And then we started filming with the agreement of the children. So it was not hunting pictures and children just for good footage, but also I talked to the children how you want to present yourself, and made some exercises how you feel comfortable in front of the camera, and they really like to give interviews in the end. First they didn't want to talk. The film was shown a lot, circulated a lot. In Israel it helped to raise money. It's shown very little in the Palestinian territories because actually the head of the organization organizes the bomb shelter school. He's a religious Jew, and therefore the film is accused of being no normalization, and they don't want to, so I can't show it, but they don't want to see it in the West Bank. And something is to accept, but saying it doesn't mean everything. If you think you do good, so always someone still can be wrong or considered wrong. Here I would make a big yes. Yeah, religious Jew. He's even I think he's an Iraqi Jew, therefore he's traditional Likud. He has everything what you do not expect of being. In the interview later, it's also interviews where he describes there was a suicide bombing. He heard it. He went to the market in order to protect the children from the beating up by customers at the market. And one children was hiding and didn't know how to get it out of the angry people, so he put his keeper on the head of the child and took him out of the angry crowd. So it's all the stories the film are talking about, and it makes something, all the stereotypes, because you think, oh, man with knitted kippah, he must be a settler, yeah. Then, okay, I cut out a lot of things now, but I would like, before we go to the bigger panel, to introduce one other project, and it's called Active Vision, with the subtitle The Other Side of the Frames. I lived in Tel Aviv, and together with a group of photographers and filmmakers, we founded a media collective called Active Vision. Our aim was and is to present a vision and visuals of those who are normally only perceived as passive objects within the world of documentary and photography, documentary filmmaking and photography. One can find thousands of images showing the poor, the victim, the suffering of the other. And a lot of those images are made with very good intention, and I'm very sure that we need all those images that show us what's going on in the world. Nevertheless, there are only few images that were made by the victims itself or themselves. It's always a journalist who writes about the situation of someone. It's a cameraman who makes a film about someone. But those who are actually affected by injustice, by discrimination, they always stay passive, and they always depend on the goodwill of their media observer. With Active Vision, we wanted to present a different view, and we wanted to tell a different story. We want to change the side of the frame, and we want to give those who always were the objects in front of our camera's lenses their own camera. So they can look at us, so they can tell their own story in their own words, and show us the world through their eyes. We wanted literally to change perspectives and turn the map around, like maybe, you know, this north-south, why it's the north up and the south down. Maybe it can be different. Through workshops, we facilitate the use of video and photography within the communities of migrants, foreign workers, and the last 2 years mainly with the huge community of African refugees in Tel Aviv. With Active Vision, we developed a special media program for young refugees. Means also people who do not speak English or Hebrew have one language, and trying how to communicate mainly through images until they catch up the language, what they do usually very fast. We offered, through a few years, we offered weekly workshops in photography and media and journalism. In the first step, we asked to make photos. We gave them cameras, very simple cameras. We had no funding. We collected old cameras from friends. We gave them cameras, and we asked them make photographs, whatever, because they really are there where nobody is. And then we developed those pictures, and they got better and better in using the camera. In the end, we enlarged those images, and we stick them all over Tel Aviv. like so people could see, because nobody sees them. And by being in the walls of Tel Aviv, by being illegal, doing this, using public space for guerrilla advertising, a lot of people looked, it was forbidden, it was a discussion. All of a sudden people started through this half-legal, illegal action. We came into the media, but then really the subject changed and people talked about the situation of the refugees. The participants wanted to go on, and when we asked them, what do you want to be? We would like to be here, because everybody say, they come here, they're taking away our ground, our work. Everybody wanted to go back, and they wanted to be doctors, physicians. They wanted to be lawyers or journalists. These were the three things. They wanted to change something when they go back, and they were hungry for education. They studied, they tried to go to school, and I think I show, to end this part, one example of film that was made by a 17-year-old boy who never saw a camera before, who never held a camera in his hand before, and who was, until today, he's illegal in Israel. But he managed to open in Petach Tikva, as a suburb of Tel Aviv, an internet cafe for African refugees to work with discriminated youth and adults in order to empower them to make their own films and basically create their own media. The third part, what we would talk about now, together with Sarah, Ami, Tamar, and Torge, is, I think, the other way of cultural diplomacy, to bring different organizations from different states and nations together and try together to create bigger international projects where come different art forms together. In our case, it was music, films, and spoken word. Sometimes different ideas, different conflicts, like working with Germans, Palestinians, Israelis. We tackle a lot of third conflicts. They're usually not in the original conflict. And I think we would like to talk about if art can create friends or it creates enemies. Please come. Torgetama Ami and Sarah Frenzen, she would moderate. She's writing her PhD actually very closely about these topics, how art can work as a tool for conflict resolution.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Torge Kübler. As you might know, I'm German, but I'm living now also in Israel, and I'm representing here the Willy Brandt Center, Jerusalem, which is, I guess, an organization which I will talk about later on, or do you want me to explain that now? Just 2 words, okay. Very briefly, the Willy Brandt Center was founded in 1996 after the peace law Oslo Accords, where peace seemed to be possible in the Middle East, and it basically has been since trying and succeeding also to bring together people from Israel and Palestine, and working on the political, on the educational, and on the artistic and cultural field.
Hello, my name is Tamer Omari, and I'm Palestinian. I'm the program director of Heartbeat Haifa, and I also direct the programs with Ami here in the region, in Palestine and Israel. And I, of Heartbeat, did I say Heartbeat? I did say Heartbeat. And I'm a musician, and I guess we'll talk a little more later. Okay.
My name is Ami Yaris, and yes, Tamer and I work together. We're part of a staff of about, I guess maybe now it's like 7 or 8 people, but I work mainly with Heartbeat Jerusalem and also helping to plan the IMUR project with Torge and Sheb, as well as doing other presentations and concerts for Heartbeat in general with their older generation of Heartbeat participants, who you'll hear about in a little bit too.
So with all these organizations who are working with people from different backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, and with also the German part in Berlin now, what do you think is the most interesting thing about this particular project that brings people from Berlin together with people from Israel and Haifa? And what do you think are the greatest chances and difficulties that this project has to offer for you?
Okay, so the program itself, just to understand what's going on again, it's a program that's combining youth of all sorts of backgrounds, from Israel and Palestine, Muslim, Christian, Arab, and beyond, and then in Berlin, also all variations, people whose histories come from Lebanon, Turkey, Iran, and also Germany. Did I miss one? Okay. Coming from nowhere and everywhere. So a challenge of this program and a beautiful thing of this program is that we create a very incredible atmosphere to meet, to dialogue, to speak, to get to know one another, to present ideas that are foreign to the public eye, because as we see in publicity and journalism and media, that conflict is constantly promoted and shown. And what we're doing here is creating a space, a safe place to talk, to create, and to challenge the status quo of what's taking place. But on the other hand, as beautiful as that is, it's also giving a false sense of reality to the participants at hand, that it's a dangerous place to go because they're seeing this beauty, they're seeing this bubble that's being created, but it's a very hard world out there to come out with these ideas, the challenges that they face when they go home to their communities, where sometimes doing integration like this is unacceptable. So on one hand, you have this beautiful experience being taken place, and we can take that message to other people, and they can hear that. It would be an incredible goal. It'll be an incredible achievement for us. But on the other hand, if the communities see what we're doing as normalization or seeing it as a negative experience, it's also dangerous for us in the same right.
Okay. Maybe, Jeb, do you want to add something, or anyone really, about the German part of it?
Yeah, after all the years in Israel, I'm not very keen about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It just happened because I was living there, and my main interest is to work local. I think all conflicts are somehow related to each other. They are not only the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or the African conflicts. And as an activist and not a politician, I usually always work just outside the city I live or the community I'm in. And at the moment, I'm finding, looking where I'm needed also in Berlin. And what I saw when I came back after 15 years is a big gap in education. There are whole classes, people excluded from high school education, from perspective on the employment market, and it goes from generation to generation. And among those, not because they're migrant, but among those are many migrants through the history. And so happens that I'm actually working now at schools in classes with migrant kids that are here, the second, the third generation, are in the middle of somehow nowhere, because everybody treats them as not being us, but they are part of the growing here up, and they have the full right to be here. And yeah.
Okay. Do you want to add anything? Okay. You were just saying it's about creating open spaces for people to exchange ideas and perspectives. And in my own impression, it's a lot about just having several perspectives next to each other, because quite often people aren't aware of that yet. Yet in the scientific discussion, I often find that these projects are kind of looked upon as something lovey-dovey, perhaps, a little it's all about emotion, it's about music, it's not hard and fast politics. So what would you say that your artistic projects have to offer that hard and fast politics can't, and why they are to be taken seriously nevertheless? And I believe that they are to be taken seriously.
I think that's actually a very good question, because for example, for the Willy Brandt Center, as I said, the approach is that we're having activities in the political field that is with young future politicians that are reaching out into the political world, and they're trying to influence their society through the political system. We have projects taking place in the educational sphere with youth movements on both sides that are reaching out because they have vast a lot of members in their movements. And then there's the arts and cultural field. And the idea of this arts and culture field is that artists always produce for an audience, obviously. So but they are not necessarily institutionalized. They are not necessarily organized in some kind of a party, a political party, or any kind of group. But still, they can be reached. They can be reached through art. And for me, honestly, it is not so important whether it's lovey-dovey or whether it's hardcore activism. It is the message that has to come through, and this message has to be authentic. And for example, our message with this evening that we're showing today a little bit, and then tomorrow in the Wasserturm, is that there is such thing as diversity. That is, I mean, okay, it sounds naive. We are all human beings, but at the end of the day, it is a kind of stubbornness also, because obviously there are a lot of people out there that still need to hear this message. So I think for me this is not naive, but very, very powerful.
I would just like to add about our Heartbeat, specifically about what we do. We mainly deal with young musicians, and I think our job is not to judge them and to say that this is lovey-dovey or this is hardcore or whatever. I feel like our job is to give space for these young musicians to express themselves and hear each other and hear like their own truths that they tell each other. Because often our truth that we hear is portrayed through a very biased media and sometimes a very narrow viewed culture or background, you know, and or narrative, if per se, and we give them the chance to hear each other's truths and therefore see a bigger picture of the truth. And if they wanna write about hope and love and understanding, then be it, you know. And if they wanna write about how we're all drinking out of that glass of poison, as one of the lines of one of our songs is, then be it, you know. So I feel like our job is to give them space to say whatever they want to say, and as Heartbeat, we try to amplify that as much as possible. So and also we try also to take them to field trips around the country and around the region, and bring presenters from different narratives, so they can listen to also other people, not just what's happening within them, but also other voices from outside, and then they can build their own reality and build their own truth. So.
One sentence, sorry, just to add one sentence in order to make it really clear. What you were arguing for was this, not so much the result that is in the foreground of the action and of the activities, but the process. So, and I think this really has to be strengthened. And okay, you come to a concert, you see a show, you see a theater play or a video or a documentary film, so you see the products. But what you don't see is the process that was behind this product, or whatever you want to call it, a piece of art. And I think this is the emancipatory power of it, and this has to be strengthened. So, good point.
Yeah, because it sounds abstract. I can't say why I'm doing it, and I always ask why I'm doing what I'm doing. I was not always a good child sitting with microphone in front of people. Was not a good child. And discovering art and doing art and getting recognition by doing art, in a way, it saved my social life and it brought me on a way I like to be, and it brought me to the being I am. And this, I think, I feel it as a duty. I want to give it back, because you don't have to, if you are in conflict, you don't have to make come from conflict. No, it has to imagine there could be a better world. And saying it keeps the hope alive, because if we all know at the moment there is no peace, maybe there would never be peace. But if we stop talking about peace, people would forget the idea, and then it's really dark.
Okay, well, yeah, maybe if I can just add a thought of my own, like I also have the impression that if you don't start at an open, creative place, you know, then you in science it is often you're looking for categories, right, and you're trying to figure out the picture how it is, and so you never have that opportunity to actually look for the picture how it could be, you know. And I think that your work can really do that and does that quite a lot. I saw it when the you know, when looking at what the young people were doing. So I thought that was yeah, really interesting. Also, on that topic, I think it ties in with the wider framework, and I quite often find myself thinking, we're trying to overcome, or you're trying to overcome categories and stuff, and then the projects you do, like this one, you know, you have a framework that it is situated in, and how do you feel that how do you feel about that framework? Does it give you enough chances to sorry, does it give you enough chances to actually work outside of the categories, or does it make you use the same categories over and over again? Can you break through that with the work you're doing in a way?
Categories like the distinctions and stereotypes?
Yeah, like national, ethnical groupisms and stuff like that. Because in your project, surely, you know, like not all the conflicts and difficulties you have are along those lines, are they? Mm-hmm. Well, when you apply for projects and stuff, you know, you have to fill in forms and you have to apply for finances, and you have to have, like, let's say 10 Palestinians and 10 Israelis on the project and stuff like that. So do you feel that gives you enough space to actually do what you want to do, or do you feel restricted? How does that work for you?
No. Obviously, when you want to do projects like this, you need considerable amount of funding, and when you want to apply for projects like this, then you have to, you have to play the game. You have to really say, okay, now I have 5 Palestinians and 5 Israelis, bringing together 5 Germans, and we will create an enormous show together. And it doesn't work this way. It doesn't work this way. You have all kinds of restrictions, and also I found myself also writing this proposal for this project. I found myself using incredibly racist language. I found, because making this distinction between Israeli and the Palestinian is already playing the game, right, that you were talking about, and obviously this. In an ideal world, this would be part of the game also to change that. That's maybe even to use talks like this, if you are in future decision-making positions, also that there is a process going on, that the people slowly but surely also start to understand that there might even be mechanisms going on that with which you kind of reinforce maybe even the conflict by sticking to these tight categories of national identity, for example.
I totally agree with everything you said, and I relate to everything you said, and that's why in Heartbeat, I mean, the young musicians that we have here with us have been with us between a year and almost 2 years, but we have other bands from about since 2007. So and that specific band that has been with us for many years, it tours around the world often. And we charge a lot of money for each show, so we try to kind of self-sustain ourselves, so we can do our work on our own terms, and we don't have to kind of agree to anybody's terms because of the reasons that Torge just mentioned. But sometimes, like sometimes we do have. We work with other organizations, such as IMUR right now. We're working with 2 different organizations, and we have to do these things. So we were asked to bring a specific amount, a specific number of Palestinians, a specific number of Israelis, and we try to work around it in our own way. But sometimes you kind of have to do what you have to do,
And I think it's also all this funding is. I think it's a way to rule activists, because many years of activism, sooner or later, especially when you start to have own family and children, sooner or later you need money, and you would play the game eventually. Otherwise, you can't do it at all, and you try to play it as pure as possible. But they always put you exactly in those categories, and they always. I think they want to see conflicts as ethnic conflicts, and they don't see them as economic conflicts, because it's not convenient, because economic conflicts they could solve by distributing money different. So there's no project that writing work on economic conflicts. All is working on ethnic conflicts, on cultural conflicts, on religion. There are thousands of interface projects that would give you money.
Like, why is it only youth?
Yeah, and when exactly. And also, if you really empower, this is even my experience here, if you empower youth, they immediately jump on you, they get angry at you, they cut your money, they don't want to work with you. And my way is now here. I try to talk in schools. I find open principles and ask to give me 2 hours in the regular lessons, and being there and working, of course, because school, I think, is an institution. It's good, it's there, and you can change it slowly, and maybe other people can come out of it. But funding is it's ruling. I mean, like.
Like these questions are very important questions, and these questions I feel like as Heartbeat we do share them with our kids. You know, like is it if an organization asks us to bring 10 people, is it only equal to bring 5 Palestinians and 5 Israelis? Is that fair? Is that equal? Gender, do we have to bring 5 males and 5 females? You know, all these questions are hard questions that we have to deal with, and I feel like at least in Heartbeat, the decision is not usually like mine. You know, the band can decide whatever they want to do, and if they want to bring, if they think to represent the message, the best way is to bring 5 males and 5 females and 5 Palestinians, 5 Israelis, then be it. If they want to bring 9 Palestinians and 1 Israeli and 9 girls and 1 boy, or whatever, like if that's what they think that is fair for them, then be it. You know, so I guess that's their decision, not mine.
So maybe there's quite a lot of work that can be done from thinking about evaluating those projects as well, which is something that I'm interested in. But maybe we should give the audience a chance to ask some questions as well, because my questions were, of course, pretty pretty much tied in with my own work. So I'm sorry if. Yeah, that wasn't all that interesting for you, but please go ahead and ask questions. And who wants to go first?
You can just stand up to say what your name is and how you ended up here.
Okay. Okay. My name's Jerusalem Ibera. I'm from I'm from London. And I've come here on an internship. I'm graduating in a few weeks in sociology and communications, and I've worked in a school for 3 years myself within behaviour management. Similar to you guys, kind of had a passion to kind of work with young people and the disadvantaged people within my own local area in London. As you may know, London is a multi-ethnic community, and so working with different people has been kind of a skill of mine, and I've really enjoyed it. And really coming here to the ICD, I wanted to kind of develop my cultural diplomacy skills and kind of understand what the need is on a global level politically. That's not really my background. My background is definitely with children and kind of their socialization process. So my thesis was based on cultural investments and the fact that cultural investments is usually kind of the main factor which contributes to disadvantaged communities and lack of social mobility in different societies. So in terms of that, I thought my question is to you guys, have you, with the project that you've had in Israel, Palestine, has the institution, the education system, has it been grasped? Has your concept been grasped by the institutions there? Is it kind of taking off, or is it still at the beginning stages?
So it's beginning to happen, and we have been asked by educational institutions for us to come in, but it's two-sided though, because on one hand we're a very like hip, cool project that brings Palestinians and Israelis together, and then in terms of I hate using the word, but propaganda, it looks great to have Heartbeat come. But we have to make sure that our message in these institutions is undiluted and pure and straight. So we haven't necessarily dove into the education system completely, but separately and also inspired by Heartbeat, I've had the opportunity personally to be able to go into schools, much like Sheb was talking about, as an artist, you know, singer-songwriter trying to connect with people on these social, political, equality and diversity levels, to go in and present music about social change and about empowerment, about making choices for yourself. And in a way, coming through the back door, it's creating that possibility. But also at all these presentations, I hype the hell out of Heartbeat. And you know, right now we're in the process of going to the schools, and it's going to happen within a few months that Heartbeat will be presented, and hopefully not diluted and changed from our mission.
No, but short of your question, Tel Aviv is active in all the work with the refugees. We on purpose did without any state funding because we wanted to be free, and we thought the state is not doing nothing for the refugee community, and we would not be a fig leaf for taking any funding. Now I went to Germany, but last year we got EU funding, and we're on the edge. We would never take it again because it's so much bureaucracy, and we felt that we are losing the spirit, and we try to get as much you can in this administrative jungle. We try as much as possible give money away to communities to empower struggle, that it's somehow there and doesn't stay in the organization. We won't become one of these undynamic organizations that can't move for bureaucratic reasons.
Just to add one thing on the institutional level, I guess Ami already mentioned it a little bit, that in Israel and Palestine, the institutions are obviously difficult, to say the least. So if we are working in this delicate balance between Israel and Palestine, it might sometimes be a better idea to just sneak out through the back door. No, sorry, to no, now I lost it. Well, no. Anyway, it might better if you work in Israel, Palestine, is to work parallel to the state institutions, not necessarily against them, obviously, but there's a lot that can be done beside the state-funded institutions, beside the official, formal educational sector. Because there's a lot of pressure going on, and a lot of pressure being put on these state institutions to work in a certain way. So
I have a lot to say, but I want to give a chance. We can talk.
Please, guys.
Any questions?
Lots of information here, I'm sure. Yes.
I'm Jorge. I'm from Colombia. I'm a political scientist and also a musician. So for me, it's very interesting, this topic, because I think music is a universal language. Doesn't matter your religious background, political background. It's like football, soccer. It's a universal language that we can just, at some point, like interact and communicate to each other. Basically, when you talk about religion or politics, everything is like black or white. And also budget is an important fact, like, to develop a project. What kind of barriers did you find, or do you have currently, in order to carry on with the process and with the project? Besides maybe religion fundamentalist or political radicals, or the budget, just besides those three facts, other kind of barriers that do you have? Yeah.
Can't have this conversation like, what are your barriers? Like, I am blessed to be able to do what I do. You know, I'm very happy. I'm very satisfied. I mean, it's a weird kind of happy because I'm working in conflict and just it's a weird duality. But I have to make a conscious choice when I get up in the morning. Am I going to do this job or go into the high-tech sector and actually make money? And so I can't take that barrier out. It's such an important issue. It's such a painful issue to deal with that, like, in order for me to do good, I have to have food in my refrigerator. And the food has to get in my refrigerator somehow. And it's a barrier. It's a barrier you can't avoid. But in the ideological sense of what's taking place, I mean, Cheb said it well in the beginning of it. He said, is coming together, you know, are we going to make peace? Are we going to end what's taking place? And he said no. But then he said, after that, he said something very, very important, but we're going to work together to remind people, to present that, to make the platform available to be able to dream and to be creative, and to make an outline for that future. So there's like a cynicism that's always present, hovering, and it's a conscious choice to walk away from that cynicism, or to look that cynicism in the eye and decide that I am not going to fall victim to it.
I'll tackle your question from a different angle. I mean, it is true we don't make a lot of money in Heartbeats, like we really don't. But believe me, I go to sleep with a smile on my face every night, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I really do. I can show you exactly how I sleep. No. No, but it is true. It is true. It really is. Like you eliminated 3 factors that cannot be eliminated. First of all, like also regarding the school system back home, the school system back home is absolutely segregated. Like you know, you have I'm talking inside 48, inside of what is called Israel. Okay, some people call it Palestine, some people call it Israel. Who am I to judge? Okay, so let's just say Israel for now. Inside of 48, all the Israeli citizens, Palestinian Israeli citizens go to their own schools. Jewish Israeli citizens go to their own schools. There are like maybe 5 schools that are for both, you know. So getting also language, you know, we don't speak the same language. Palestinian Israelis speak Arabic, Jewish Israelis speak Hebrew, so that's another thing. You know, Palestinian Israelis also speak Hebrew, but that's not their mother tongue. And when you go, when these young musicians meet, some of them will speak in their mother tongue and some of them don't. Now, is that fair? Is that equal? We can talk about that. We don't go to the West Bank. Now, why don't we go to the West Bank? We go to the West Bank because we don't have enough money to hire people to sit down and work for days to try to get permits for those kids inside the West Bank to come to Haifa or to come to Jerusalem. So what are the difficulties? There are a million other reasons why it is so difficult to do what we're doing. Also, in terms of our message, all of a sudden, lately, for some reason, when you say equality and you say freedom and you say justice and fairness, you're a radical thinker, you know. And it's like, isn't that like the most basic thing that you need to think about? And now it's so radical when you say like everybody should be free, you know. So people go crazy when you ask for equality for these kids, for all of them, these young musicians. So just call them young musicians. So people don't, like, a lot of people don't like what we do because we're calling to change the status quo. And when you call to change something, those people that don't want to change it will not like you. And and those people that like the status quo are the people with power, and the people that decide, and the people that have money, and the people that can allow us and sometimes can allow us not to do, or not allow us to do whatever we want to do. So we try to do it in a very delicate way, but in a very real, true way. Also from the Palestinian side, I'm not talking about only the Israeli side or Palestinian. Like Palestinian side, when we bring Israelis and Palestinians together, the first thing that pops in, like a red flag pops in your mind. You know, they're normalizing the situation. You know, they're not talking about this. You know, they're not talking about the wall. They're not talking about the occupation. They're not talking about, you know, these things. And that's not true. Like that, like we do talk about the wall. We do talk about you know, the occupation. We do talk about all these things, and we try to bring these up to the table. You know, and but when you do hear about Israelis and Palestinians getting together, a red flag should go in your mind, and then you should go and research it, and then decide if that's yes or no. But you should not decide right away. But a red flag should go in your brain. There are so many things. Again, I have so much to say, but I want to give a chance for more people to speak. So please come and talk to me after. I would love to. All of you. I would love to. I would love to.
Hello, my name is Ben. I'm from America. I'm a master's student here. I'm Ben. I'm from America. I'm a master's student here at the Institute. I'm also looking at funding sources for my own ideas at this point. It was very interesting to hear you talk about the process being more interested in the outcome, because words that you hear all the time are indicators and impact evaluation. And I'm wondering, I would agree with you that the mere act of collaborating seems to be the most important thing, but how do you sell your project to potential donors? Like, what are the indicators and the evaluation methods? I'm sorry, that's a little bit of a dry question, but I'm really interested in it. And just, if you could talk a little bit about how you went through the process of getting funding, because it's pretty scary and it seems to be all about who you know, and I'm wondering how you really connected with the right sorts of donors, and if you could give any advice. Thanks. How you connected with your donors. Just if you could share some of that process, because I'm interested. Thanks.
Man, I hate this question. I'm sorry. Because in Heartbeat, we're an organization, we're 7 years old, and we've been really blessed by having some private donors that have helped us out from the East Coast. And it's on the account of Aaron Schneer, who founded the group 7 years ago. It originally started through a Fulbright grant, and then the following year, you know, it's a hot topic, it sounds cool, so people were like, here, take some money to run your project. But now, as things are going on, yeah, people are starting to ask, like, well, what's taking place? What is this process? What are your indicators that you're succeeding at this? And we're trying to figure that out, to be honest. You know, we're lucky because the nature of Heartbeat is media-based at the end of the day. Not at the end of the day, it's very integral to the process. So we have videos on YouTube, we have recording sessions, our participants are learning video editing, our participants are learning how to record music. And all this is coming into the big idea of trying to be a self-sustaining nonprofit. That, like, yeah, there is a product that's being created by what we're doing, but at no point does the product become more important than the process. So while you're doing these things of indicators and evaluations, like, make sure you're being true to what you're trying to achieve, and at no point ever swaying from your ideals. The second you sway from your ideals, you're caught up in a game of cat and mouse, of trying to get money. But beyond that, I guess in terms of more funding, I mean, partnering with the Willy Brandt and Jeb was a very healthy thing for us to do. Also with the help of Europeans for Peace. They were very interested. So there's organizations out there that we jive with, you know? And the thing is most important, that you gotta make sure who you're jiving with, who you're talking to, who's giving you the money, where's the money coming from, is also important, because you could end up with dirty money on your hands too.
No, just in order to get that straight, because you mentioned us in line with a lot of donors. The Willy Brandt Center per se is, although it might sound this way, like there's the Friedrich Ebert Foundation, there's the Konrad Adenauer Foundation, there's the Willy Brandt Center. No, no. We're not a foundation. We don't have any money whatsoever, which is not completely true, but no. We ourselves are basically just an idea that has been set up, as I said, in 1996. And actually the Willy Brandt Center is 3 different projects. So we have to, and these 3 projects are funded by the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. And apart from that, all these 3 projects have to raise funds for all of their activities. So what I did now for this project was to raise funds from the, as you mentioned, the Europeans for Peace program, from the Foundation for the Foundation Remembrance, Responsibility and Future, which is also based here in Berlin. And small other donors, like or money givers, like the Goethe Institute, because it's a cultural thing that has something to do with Germany. Yeah, but it is a very burning and a very nasty question, because the indicators are obviously very, very difficult to set up and to fulfill also. And also we, in our programs and projects, have to just figure it out. It's a continuous process, and it's a continuing dialogue also between us and the donors, I would say. Just shortcut it.
I didn't want to say, but now it's because you asked it. I just 2 weeks ago I screwed it up with that donor because I had on purpose, because I had a project also in migrant community. It was making pictures and writing about their life. In the end, there are these kids who never went to school. They took a lot of hashish. They run around in the night. So they were not very ambitious. They felt like they have to do it. In a way, it was true. And then in the end, they liked it when they saw the result, and we will have an exhibition. And I said, no, but I don't expose your text. Why not? Because you can do it better. You're not writing on a level of a 16, 17-year-old. You don't know how to spell words right. No, you write them better. And we don't show them because they're like for 8 years old on this level, how you articulate yourself, and let's work on it. Then this donor, big organization, came, show off, where are the texts? I said, I don't show them. Then why you don't show them? And I show them, because you see, they're not, no, they're good. I said, these kids are 18 years old. Would you publish a text? I say, I would not publish a text if I write in 2 weeks, even if it's good. Why you want to force those kids to publish their text? And I say, this is another kind of racism. Because just they're migrant, we put them down on a level of 12 years old, even though I say, I know, give me another 2 weeks, and they will have text there according to their age. And then we had a big, big fight. And I said, if you want this, if you just want to be happy they can do something and scrabble around, this is exactly the opposite of what I want to achieve. It puts them even more aside, just to acknowledge acknowledge something that it's not on their level. It's bringing them down. It's not forcing them, it's not challenging them, and I don't know, probably I lost money.
How are we doing for time? When do we have to finish? I think it's really a shame to sort of... And they're really the highlight, so you have to say that.
Feel the pressure. Gotta be perfect, but no pressure. No. Can I just add one last thing, if that's okay? It's like 15 minutes. No, just kidding. I just want to say, and it's very important for me to say, in every time I talk to international people, it's very important for me to say that Heartbeat is not a representation of what's happening back home. And Heartbeat is something that we hope that one day will represent what it is back home. But our kids is not a representation of the current situation back home. You don't often see Jewish, Israeli, and Palestinians sitting on one stage, hanging out, laughing, being just friends together. Unfortunately, we are special, and we don't like that we are special. We want everybody to be as special as us, and so nobody's special. But it is, with all seriousness, we are not a representation of what's happening back home, and we try to bring a message of hope, a message of let's stand up and do something about the situation, and we do our part through our passion, and hopefully you also will do your part, if that's okay, with your passion, if I may. So that's all I want to say.
Thanks a lot, everybody, and I think we should just go and enjoy, eh?
Enjoy,